Depending on the source, there are about 4,000 to 10,000 different religions in the world. The 5 major religions include Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism. Since there are so many religions in the world, some people make the relativistic claim that all of these religions are equally true and valid paths to God. This leads them to believe that no one religion is truer or better than any other religion. The story of the elephant and the blind man that we talked about last week is often used to illustrate this idea of religious pluralism. And so in the story, there are 5 blindfolded men, and they're all feeling around this elephant, trying to figure out what animal it is, and they're all blindfolded so they can't see for sure, and they're all feeling different areas of the elephant. And so the person feeling the tusks of the elephant says that it's probably a spear because it's long and pointy, kind of has that texture. A person climbs on top of the elephant and is only feeling the ears and says it's probably a fan because it moves, it blows air, that's what a fan does as well. And then the person feels the tusk of the elephant, the trunk of the elephant, and says it's long and skinny, it moves around a lot, and so it feels like a snake. Another person is holding the leg and foot of the elephant and says it's round and very tall, and so it's probably a tree, because that's what a tree feels like. And then another person feels the side of the elephant and said it's probably a wall. It's strong, it's sturdy, it's not really going anywhere, and it has that kind of wall-like texture if you've ever seen the skin of an elephant. And then another person grabs the tail of the elephant, which I don't recommend anyone doing, but this person did. And they say it's probably a rope because it feels around, it has what feels like strings on the bottom of it. And so all these people are trying to figure out what this animal is, but they're all technically wrong. And this story goes on to say that there's a ruler who sleeps in the second story of a castle who's watching this all go down from above, and he hears the discussion that they're talking about, and he says that all these blind men have part of the truth, and that they need to put all of their information together to know what the animal, which is an elephant, is actually like. And so I think he's correct to an extent, but I also think he's wrong, because all of the blind men have part of the evidence for that specific area of the elephant, but this should not be considered to be part of the truth. There's a big difference, because they each have a false conclusion that's in direct contradiction to the other men's conclusions. So they can't all be part of the truth, but they can all be partly true for that specific area, and the information that they're gathering, not the conclusions that they're making. In fact, each of them has a false conclusion, and that's in direct contradiction to the other conclusions. And so, if they had part of the truth, then all of their conclusions would supplement each other and provide more information about the different areas that would ultimately lead them all to conclude that the animal really is an elephant if they got together and explained where they were and what they felt and why they thought it was what it was, but what else it could possibly be with this additional information that they didn't know before. And so, discovering the truth about the animal that they're feeling requires them to consider all of the evidence to come to the most reasonable conclusion, which in this story they don't do, because they all come to different conclusions, all of which are wrong. And so they only consider their limited knowledge to make a partially educated guess about the animal, which in every case except the ruler, who is able to see all of this, is something that's not in line with reality and therefore cannot be true. However, the ruler in this story does this exactly. He uses all his senses to discover what the truth is, mainly his sense of sight. And so his explanation also explains all of the other pieces of evidence discovered by each of the blind men. And so this gives us really good reason to believe that his conclusion is true. And the truth of his conclusion would only really be in question if we had additional pieces of information that contradicted what he was saying. Since the animal cannot be a snake, a fan, a rope, a tree, a brick wall, and a spear at the same place and the same time, some of the blind man's conclusions are wrong. In fact, any conclusion that claims that this animal is anything other than an elephant is not true, since truth is exclusive to the way that things really are. And so this is also true with all of these 4,000 to 10,000 religions in the world. They cannot all be true because they all make different contradictory claims. A religion that doesn't correctly explain the nature of God or how we can be saved, or a host of other important issues in a way that aligns with things really are, so their explanation aligns with reality, cannot be a true religion. And so all religions have some surface level similarities, but no two religions agree on important concepts such as the nature of God, human nature, man's origin, the universe, life after death, what that's like, destiny, meaning, the purpose of our lives, what sin is, how do we get saved, and even the person of Jesus. This shows us that all religions aren't essentially the same with a few small differences, but essentially different with a few small similarities that are very surface level. They have deep, fundamental, and irreconcilable differences on key issues. And so one example of this is the concept of the Trinity. And so in different religions, they all talk differently about who God is. In Christianity, God is three persons, but there's only one God. He's triune, which is the Trinity. And then in Hinduism, there's no such thing as a God figure. Everything is only part of the one entity that is Brahman. But this is very different from the personal God of Christianity, for example. And in Buddhism, there is no God. There's no God at all. And in Judaism, there is a God, but there's only one person in this God. He's not triune. It's just Yahweh from the Old Testament. Jesus isn't God. He was just a man or a prophet, but he wasn't God. And in Islam, it also believes that there's only one God and that he is not three persons. But it differs from Judaism because it's the same God, but he has a very different character as revealed in the Quran compared to the Old Testament that Jews believe in. And so all of this information can't be true. There can't both be one God who is triune, made up of three people, one God who is not triune and just God, no God, and many gods in our universe. Because right now, those can't all be true. Those are fundamentally contradictory statements about God. So some of them, and possibly all of them, although if you're an atheist and believe that there's no God, that one could be true while all the other ones are false. But it doesn't make any sense that all these truths about the nature of God, who God is, which is really important in a religion, could all be true. And so this is also shown in the way that you're saved in religions. In Hinduism, your salvation is based on your karma, although the idea of reincarnation is different from that idea that's presented in Buddhism. And in Judaism, you're not saved through Jesus' sacrifice on the cross because he wasn't God who could make that sacrifice, but in the Old Testament they make other sacrifices to cover up their sins, and Jews today, I believe, repent and do other things to try to earn their way to salvation. That fundamentally contradicts with Christianity's idea that we are saved through grace, by grace through faith in Jesus and what he did on the cross. And in Islam, I believe you have to follow the 5 pillars and pray to Allah and things like that. Now, those can't all be true. We can't both be saved by grace and by our works. It has to be one or the other. If it's by grace, then it, by definition, cannot be by our works. And if it's by our works, then it, by definition, cannot be by grace. And so these are fundamentally different and not something that can be considered all to be true. And there are some areas where religions are similar to each other, but these are not, as I said before, the core doctrines of each religion. And so it's not logically possible for all religions to be true, but it is possible that only one religion is true. If only one religion is true, then all other religions have to be false, because other religions make claims about the nature of God and salvation that will contradict other religions. In fact, take the idea of universalism, the idea that everyone is saved no matter what you believe at all. Well, that sounds like it would include everyone, but it really doesn't, because this contradicts fundamentally with the idea of Christianity, which is that you cannot be saved by anything that you do, and if you don't accept Jesus' sacrifice on the cross, you won't be saved because you are a sinner. And so universalism may say that Christians can be saved, and Christianity is true along with all the other religions, but it has a very surface level idea of Christianity. It doesn't understand Christians' view of salvation in the way that Christianity explains. And so it's kind of, and this can be said for all the other 5 major religions as well. And it's just interesting that even that idea that all religions are paths to God actually contradicts with the idea of many religions that they are the only true religion and only path to God. They cannot both be true. Even though it sounds nice and sounds cheesy in our common culture where no matter what you believe, you're right and everything is relative, it fundamentally can't be true because it contradicts itself even. And so, similar to the ruler in the story, looking out and talking about the people filling the elephant who makes an exclusive claim about truth, Jesus, who is the founder of Christianity, made the exclusive claim about truth that he was the way, the truth, and the life, and that no one would come to God except through him. And this logically lines up with the conflicting claims that other religions make about important concepts about the nature of God and how to be saved. And something that C.S. Lewis said that I really liked. He said, Christianity is either of no importance or of infinite importance. What it cannot be is moderately important. And so I think that's really true. Christianity cannot be moderately important. It either is the only way to be saved, or it's a completely useless way that saves no one. It cannot be both. And he was right, because all religions cannot be true. They disagree on core concepts and are at odds with each other on fundamental issues in irreconcilable ways because they make logically contradictory claims about the world around us. But the good thing is that we can test religious claims to see if they line up with reality to discover which, if any, religion is actually true. And so if you like this content, I hope that this helped you. And if you would like to hear more information about this, you can like and subscribe to Agape Apologetics, where I try to give a reasonable defense of the Christian faith with love. And so I hope this was helpful.